Hey guys, this is Chris from Rekkid Talk. So we're going to preempt 5 records in 5 minutes this week. Instead, we're going to jump on the We Need More Funk in the VC thread. We need more funk in the VC. So I'm going to show a bunch of singles, a lot more than 5. And so I'm going to show a bunch of 7-inch records for the benefit of the 6-inch. The 15-centimeter pianist, John, over in England. So he was the one who started the thread. He wants us to show more funk records. He showed some funk records. Other people have been jumping in. And so most of my records that would be in the sort of funk, soul, or disco genres are 7-inch singles. Most of them are things I've gotten thrifting. And I've left off for this particular video stuff that I generally consider leans more towards soul or disco. Obviously, we can argue about genres. They're not completely disjoint of each other. There's certainly overlap. It's going to be almost all male singers in this video. Probably eventually going to do a video about female soul singers. I was thinking about calling it Soul Singers Not Named Aretha. Let's get into it. So let's start right off with this Stone Cold Funk classic, Play That Funky Music by Wild Terry. Oh, I'm just kidding. That one doesn't count. Okay, I'm going to go more or less chronologically here. And so we're going to start off 1965, Leon and the Burners with Crack Up on the Josie label, with Whiplash on the flip side. And so I'm going to call this sort of proto-funk, sort of like we have proto-punk. You got Leon Haywood before he had some hits doing instrumental stuff a la Booker T and the MGs. You got some cheesy organ, you got the organs, you got some bass going. You really need the bass to be funk. I'm a noob, but even I know that. Then, of course, once we get out of proto-punk into punk, we have bands like the Ramones. And once we get out of proto-funk into funk, we got James Brown. Ain't It Funky Now, Part 1, on the King label, and with the custom James Brown on it. And then, of course, we can't contain all the funk on one 7-inch slab, so we got to go over to the other side. Ain't It Funky Now, Part 2. And, of course, you could pick just about any James Brown single or record for this. Pushing it a bit, this is going to be a very recent thrifting find, something I got just about a week ago or so. So this is Monk Montgomery, also from 1969, like that James Brown, A Place in the Sun. This is sort of more like a funk, soul, jazz sort of mix. Monk Montgomery was a bass player, mostly was a sideman, wasn't a leader all that much. He was the brother of the jazz guitarist Wes Montgomery. There is some unfortunate cheesy strings in that particular track. And then something I found on that same thrifting trip was If I Had a Chance to Love You by the Jive 5. And notice 5 is spelled with a Y, but then in parentheses they put the regular spelling, featuring Eugene Pitt. This is more of a southern northern soul finding rather than a funk finding per se. Got it for $1, probably worth $30 to $60. Mine would be low end because it's pretty rough, although I did give it an ultrasonic clean and it plays through. It's definitely noisy and crackly, but doesn't have skips somehow. Decca Records, they even have a Decca Record Company sleeve with it. Then we've got, okay, let's get into some classic stuff that everybody knows. We've got Curtis Mayfield, Freddie's Dead, the theme from Superfly. So this is 5 classic minutes. I think this might even be better than other famous theme song classics from blaxploitation movies. Also from that same year, 1971, we have, of course, the theme from Shaft by Isaac Hayes. But then after re-listening to them both, nah, Shaft is still where it's at. You got the wah wah, the bass line. Yeah, give that man an Oscar. Let's skip up a few years. 1974. Said I wasn't going to show many of the women in this particular video. We might get them in another video in the future. But we've got Betty Wright here with Secretary on the Alston label. Value Your Love was the flip side. But Betty Wright's pretty sassy. You got that sassy Secretary. I would show some of the Naughty Betty Davis records, but I unfortunately don't actually have any of them. And while we're talking about naughty records, the Ohio Players really set the bar for the lurid album covers. I just have a 45 without a sleeve here. Ohio Players Love Roller Coaster from 1975. The Red Hot Chili Peppers covered it for like a Beavis and Butthead movie. Maybe they'll just do an Ohio Players covers record at some point. This is off that Sticky Covered Honey album. And of course, there's that scream in the song. That's the stuff of creepy urban legends. And of course, you're saying, well, where's the P-Funk if you're making a funk video? All right, we got some Parliament with Dr. Funkenstein from 1977 on the Casablanca label. Now, when you were a white kid who grew up in the 1970s, you might have associated the Casablanca label with Kiss rather than the other types of music that were actually more common on that particular label. Then if I'm going to show you the P, I got to show you the funk. So I'm going to show you some Funkadelic here on Warner Brothers from 1978. You got One Nation Under a Groove Part 1. And you can't contain all the funk again on one side of the record, so you got to go over to side 2. And of course, the Dr. Funkenstein for Parliament has a trombone solo in it. And of course, this is so smooth. Feet Don't Fail Me Now. And then the next one I'm going to show this guy has a more well-known brother. So this is Jorge Santana on the Tomato label. So I'm showing you I was showing you the flip side. The A side's called Love the Way. Song called Sandy on the flip side. You can see the price tag says $12.99, but I actually got it for 99 cents from a record store that was going out of business and having sort of a blowout sale of their singles. It's probably really more smooth Latin rock than funk. Per se, no matter what Discogs might say about it. So Jorge Santana, he passed away a few years ago, but he was Carlos Santana's younger brother, also a guitar player. And then we think of him as one of our main male soul singers, but Marvin Gaye can get funky too, a funky space reincarnation. I know this was from a dig I made where there are a lot of jukebox records because we've got these jukebox labels that were in here. And so Marvin Gaye is somehow so smooth that he can sing a line like "Let's razzmatazz and feel each other's ass" and still make it sound soulful rather than creepy. I think he was pretty baked when he recorded this one. And then I forgot a record. I need to go get it. Alright, so this record I had to show for the label, if nothing else. Chocolate City Records. This is Vernon Birch with Sammy Joanne, one half woman, one half man. Song called Get Up on the flip side. This is really ready for the disco floor. You got a great guitar break in it, which I found out was by Vernon himself, so he played the guitar and sang. I think he did a lot of session work as well. You, of course, got the classic funky bass lines going. On that B-side, Get Up, it's got a part of it that was sampled by D-Light in group for their 1990 song Groove is in the Heart. This was from 1979. And then we've got from 1981, we've got the Whatnots. So this is a rarity here. Help is on the Way. This is on Harlem International Records. And Now, this group, the Whatnots, were actually from Baltimore, and I would probably describe this as the world's funkiest gospel jam. So you got like the gospel religious lyrics, but it's funky. Then something that's probably not in the gospel category would be Rick James. You've heard of Rick James, Super Freak on the Gordy label. This label's pretty worn out. You got part 1 and part 2, so again, at least on the 7-inch version, you've got to spread it out over the 2 sides. I'm assuming there were 12-inch singles of that must have existed. And while we're talking about well-known stuff, I've got this double A-side reissue by Prince, so you got 1999 and Little Red Corvette, Warner Brothers, their back-to-back hits series, so you know those. And then by the time we got to 1985, we've got the electronic drum sound, we got the 80s sounding synths all over the place, you've got Cameo, you got videos on MTV. So this is their song called The Single Life. If I played it for you, even if you hadn't told you it was from 1985, you would know it was from 1985. But it's still got that classic bass line that you would associate with it. And then also sort of along that lines, although this song's not as well known, you've got A Piece of Candy by General Johnson and the Chairman. This is on the Surfside Records here, 1987, label out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I didn't look it up, so I don't know if General Johnson's from there or not. And apparently, this is kind of a rarity as well in terms of that record. And then the only picture sleeve that I'm going to show in this one, we've got some Jesse Johnson, Love Struck from 1988. I mean, what can I say about Jesse Johnson besides the fact that this guy obviously really, really, really wanted to be Prince? So you got Love Struck and Do Yourself a Favor as the B-side. And then finally, I'm going to show you something from 2020. We're going to take you full circle back to a jazzy, funky instrumental piece driven by an organ. So on the Coal Mine label, we got Faux Show by the Delvon Lamar Organ Trio. As I trip over Delvon Lamar Organ Trio. Yeah, I can't say it. Inner City Blues. On the flip side, which was a Marvin Gaye song. So there you go. Way over 5 minutes this week. I'll do a couple of episodes of 5 Rekkids in 5 minutes next week. But we need more funk in the VC, so I gave you some more funk coming in at just under 13 minutes.